Hey, aren't you tired of hearing all this hype about Adam Cole? I mean, aren't you tired of it? I keep hearing all this hype about this guy for the past 3 to 4 or 5 years, right? People always try to overlook his size, right? When it comes to the indie fanboys, the AEW fanboys and shit, the work rate fanboys, they always over glorify this guy. And they put him on an untouchable mountain, an untouchable pedestal, right? So I'm sitting back and I'm thinking like, hold on. There's something about this guy that nobody else is pointing out that is so fucking glaring. How come I'm the only guy who's seeing it about Adam Coleslaw? Let me go further. Let me explain where I'm going with this. I bet people are looking at the title and saying, what does he mean by Adam Cole is this era's new fucking X-Pac? Why am I comparing Adam Cole to X-Pac? Well, that's what he is. He is this generation's X-Pac. He's Shawn Waltman. He's not Shawn Michaels. He's fucking X-Pac. And let me explain why he's the new X-Pac. Okay. When it comes to X-Pac, every promotion that he's in, haven't you noticed he always has to be in the group? Haven't you noticed that? He always has to be in a group. He always has to be in the stable. Remember? Okay. The first stable he was in, I think it was the Click. Then on TV, I think he was in Ted DiBiase's stable, right? So that's two. Then he left the WWF and he went to WCW and he became 6. And he became a member of the NWO. That's 3. Then he goes back to the WWF and he becomes X-Pac. And he becomes a member of the fucking DX, D-Generation X. So he couldn't be solo long enough to the point where he has to be in a fucking stable. He couldn't be in WCW long enough as a solo act to the point where he had to be in a fucking stable. He couldn't be solo for too long until he found a stable to back him up, to keep him relevant. Because X-Pac knew he's not a good solo act. He needs to be in a stable. He needs to be in a group. He needs to be relevant. He needs to be a background player, right? He needs to be in the most relevant faction at all times, right? So, he leaves DX. DX breaks up, right? Then the WCW invasion angle came in, right? And then this guy became a member of the rebranded WWF version of the NWO. Remember that? So what's that? That's like 4 factions? Yeah. That's like 4 fucking factions. No, my bad. That's 5. That's 5 factions. You got the Click. You got the $1 Million Corporation with Ted DiBiase. That's 2. The NWO. That's 3. Then DX. That's 4. And then the rebranded NWO. That's 5. Let me top it off with the 6 faction that he was in the WWF. Remember X Factor with Just Incredible and fucking Prince Albert? That's 6 factions. So prior to his faction called X Factor, this guy couldn't stay solo long enough to not be in a fucking stable. Because he knows without a stable, he is exposed as a regular plain guy who has nothing to offer. Right? He needs to be in a faction to stay cool, to stay relevant, to make people forget that he's not really a good solo act. Right? Who does that sound like? That sounds like Adam Coleslaw, right? That sounds like Adam Cole. I've done some fact checking on this guy. And he was in a faction in PWG called Mount Rushmore. Wow. With Sami Zayn, the Young Bucks, and Kevin Owens. Okay. So he goes to Ring of Honor. And he starts a stable with him and the fucking Young Bucks. So that's 2 stables. Then he becomes a member of the Bullet Club. That's fucking 3. Then he leaves ROH, goes to the WWE. In his debut in NXT, he had a debut with a new faction. So even in NXT, he couldn't be solo long enough not to be in a faction. So that's 4. That's 4 factions in a 6-year span in his career at that time. So he leaves the WWE, comes to AEW, and what do you know? He finds another faction. His debut was coming into a new faction. He had his 6th stable. Oh, no, wait. Was it 5 or 6? So he had Mount Rushmore. Then he had a stable with the fucking Young Bucks. Then he had the Bullet Club. So hold on. Got Mount Rushmore, the Young Bucks, Bullet Club, the fucking Undisputed Era. That's 4. Then 5, the fucking Elite. That's 5 stables. How come this guy can't be a solo act? Why does he need to tag along with other guys to stay relevant? He has to have, he always has to be a part of the most popular stable to stay relevant. Because he knows he's not a good solo act. He needs to be a part of the newest, coolest faction at all times to keep his name out there, to stay relevant. That's pathetic to me. That's 5 factions this guy done been in. More people should be talking about this. So he made his debut in NXT with a faction. He comes to AEW. He makes his debut being the new member of a faction. Why can't he be solo? Why does he have to tag along with other top guys to stay relevant? Why can't he be by himself? That's why he is this generation's new X-Pac. He's X-Pac, people. Stop putting him on a fucking pedestal. He's fucking X-Pac. You see the parallels here? You see the parallels, right? Look, every faction that fucking X-Pac was in, didn't you notice? He was always the smallest guy, right? Go back to my video about Adam Cole when I said how I would book him if he resigned to the WWE. I would put him in a group with other big guys. to make him look good. So every faction this guy is in, he's always the smallest guy in the faction. When it comes to his body type, he always needs backup, just like X-Pac. Every faction X-Pac was in, he was always the smallest guy. Because he always needed backup to make him look good. To make him look like a credible guy. Come on, man. I'm speaking facts about fucking Adam Cole. Why are you putting him on a pedestal? He ain't shit without a faction. So how is he so great? He's X-Pac. Look. If X-Pac was young again in his prime and he was in this era, he would be Adam Cole. He would be hyped up and pumped up and put on a high-ass pedestal like Adam Cole because he's fucking small. For some reason, this generation puts small guys on a high pedestal higher than big guys. I have no idea why. It's crazy how people put Daniel Bryan on a higher pedestal than fucking Batista and fucking Randy Orton. That's insane to me. But that's the generation that we're in when it comes to professional wrestling. For some reason, it's a good thing that you're small. Because you will get the fucking smart marks to fucking put you on a pedestal like you are better than fucking Hulk Hogan. Hey, look, if you are small, hey, go to fucking AEW. They will treat you like you're a fucking legend. I mean, how come people are not talking about this, about Adam Cole? He's X-Pac. He can't be in a he can't be a solo act for a long time. He can't be on his own without eventually finding a faction to be in to stay relevant, to look cool, to be cool. He always needs acceptance from the fans. That's why he always has to be in a faction. He always has to leech with other guys who are over. It's like, come on, like, what? Nobody's talking about this. Adam Cole been in 5 factions. X-Pac been in 6 factions. Come on, man. Nobody is pointing this out. Nobody is talking about this when it comes to Adam Cole. That's why I think he's the most overrated wrestler in the whole entire world. Why are y'all pumping up another X-Pac? That's what he is. He's X-Pac. He's nothing more than a background player who needs a faction to stay popular, to stay credible. Do you honestly believe that if X-Pac would have never been in NWO, do you honestly believe he would have been over in WCW as a solo act? Didn't you notice that X-Pac always struggled every time DX broke up? Didn't you notice that he was always irrelevant every time DX broke up? You didn't notice that? You didn't notice when the Undisputed Era broke up? You didn't notice that Adam Cole felt lost without his boys? That's what he is. He's X-Pac. He's just a mid-carder to me. He's an undercard guy. He's a mid-card, undercard guy. And more people need to accept that. Do your fact research. If you think I'm lying, go on YouTube, go on fucking Wikipedia and look at the history of X-Pac with factions. And look at the history of Adam Cole with factions. Every promotion he's in, he always has to be in a faction. He's never by himself. That's all. I'm done.